So guys, as we saw quantitative filters, now we'll move ahead to qualitative filters. Now you understood that quantitative name suggests that they deal with quantitative aspects. Now we have to go with qualitative aspects as well. So that there are also certain filters that will be applied on a qualitative basis, right? So what are the sources? So when we are looking after the qualitative aspects, we need to understand that from what reliable sources we can get the data of that particular company, for which we need to judge its comparability. So first would be the official company's website, where they would have mentioned their business activities, business operations, their place of business, etc. And probably at certain times they must be also publishing their brochures, or the data, who are their customers, etc. And what are they into, what is their supply chain. So such type of things you can get from the official companies or groups website, let me just put it that way. So this is one of the sources from which you can ascertain that what that company is particularly into, or what that company is operating, right? What are its operations? I'm sorry. Then after, once when you are thorough that this company can be compared with your tested parties operations, then you also need to go ahead and check the company's financials to ascertain that particular amount of activities. So at times, it may happen, or it usually happens, that the company for marketing purposes must have put many things on their website, that they are selling this type of services, they are selling this type of products, etc. But in factual part, you need to check the financial statements, and under that financial statements there would be a notes to accounts, where you will get the data what that company is engaged into. You can also gauge this data from other parts of that annual report, just like segmental information, or from revenue from operations, or from director's report, or from any other part of that particular annual report, which you need to see, and then appropriately you need to understand that what company is actual into, whether it's into manufacturing, or it is only doing a job worker thing, or it's into only trading, it's into wholesale, it's into wholesale purchase of products, or wholesale, it's into wholesaling business. So this type of things you can understand more from the financial statements, once you ascertain that from the company's website, or any other website from which you are able to understand that that company has similar operations as compared to your tested party. So that is what the thing is. Now the third is segmental data. Now what happens at times happens that the company may be, there will be one company, but it would have 4 to 5 segment, it would be doing the segmental reporting. So you need to also check, so from the website you came to know that okay, the company is engaged into certain processes or certain operations which matches your tested parties operations. So to go ahead and to further check that, you should also check the segmental data, that whether a segmental data is available particularly for that particular segment of sales which the company is doing. If that is available, you should use the segmental data, and then it's on your judgment basis there also. You need to understand that from where this company is getting revenue. So as we also discussed that more than 75% of revenue should come from the operations which your tested party is also doing, right? So the same level, if that doesn't matches that particular, the ratio doesn't matches, you should go ahead and check for segmentals also. So probably if the company is engaged in two or more types of activities, then if the segmentals are available for that particular activity, so the same activity which your tested party is undertaking, then you should go ahead with the segmental data rather than getting into the entire profit loss account. So that is where these are the sources from which you can ascertain that what company is exactly doing. Now once when we do this, you need to also analyze the financial details once when you have the report in your hand, right? At this point of time, you have your financial statements of the company which could be considered as a potential comparable to your tested party. So once when you download that particular financial reports from the registered website, that is official website of company registrar, that is mca.gov.in, then you need to further analyze that data to ascertain that it also meets the quantitative criteria which you have selected in the earlier process, right? So it should obviously match that data, because at times it may happen that the database may not capture that amount of particular data. So that is where you need to analyze the financial details. Now, what are these financial details? Let me just explain one by one. So, first is RPT ratio to sales, right? You need to understand that. So, there is also a file which will be there below this video, where you need to compute the related party transactions to sale ratio. So, under related party transactions, you take all the transactions undertaken by the company which affects its profit loss account. You don't have to take the balances of that particular entity, right, of the related parties, but there will be a related party schedule. It's a mandatory disclosure, I think, under Companies Act, to disclose that particular related party transactions in the financial statements. So you'll get that from notes to accounts, RPT disclosure. Compare all the transactions, just total out all the transactions which affects the profit and loss and divide that by sales. You will get the template also below this video, so that it is easy for you to compute that RPT to sales criteria. If the RPT goes beyond 25%, and in case if you have applied that filter in quantitative aspect as well, then you have to be consistent in this part also, and you have to apply that filter, and then you may reject that particular comparable company or particular year in which the RPT has crossed its limits, right? Then apart from RPT, as I said, the quantitative aspects are also to be judged, right? If about the turnover or whatever we discuss, the quantitative aspects that what you have taken in the first process, that are also required to be judged once when you have the actual financials of the company. See, let me just also tell you that in a database or in a public database or this database which you are going to access, there could be error, because these are the inputs given by some some employees of that particular company only. So there could be some errors also, clerical errors also in that database, and also the figures may sometime not be right or correct. So ensure that if the company is comparable to the tested parties operations, you go through the financials and you ensure that that also qualifies your quantitative aspects. So that you are required to understand, and appropriately you need to select the comparables. Now we move to the third point, which is ascertaining the qualitative aspects. So once when the quantitative aspects are clear, the RPT ratio to sales is clear, then after whatever the set of companies remaining with you, you need to also understand that characterization is matching with your tested parties characterization or not, and second thing, the nature of product or service being sold. So these two are the also main important part, from which you will be understanding that functionally that company can be considered as a comparable or not, because our objective is to find the comparable data set, right? It should be not exactly matching with the activities, but broadly it should match with the activities which your tested party is undertaking. Now why I have written characterization is because if your tested party is engaged in trading activity, wholesaling or distribution activity, you cannot compare a manufacturing entity which is engaged in manufacturing of that particular product. The products could be same, whatever the products which are being sold by the or distributed by tested party, and the whatever products are being sold by this particular company. But if the company is engaged into manufacturing of that product, vis-a-vis the tested party is engaged into trading of that product, you cannot match, you cannot take that company as a comparable company, correct? So that is where characterization plays an important role to determine the functional comparability, correct? And nature of products and services being sold. So obviously similar products should be sold in the market. It should not be the exact comparable products. It could be similar, or similar kind of products can be sold in the market. So for example, if I want to if my tested parties engage in distribution of crockery sets, and that are also melamine crockery sets, then I can go ahead and take comparable companies who are engaged in selling of crockery sets. Probably that could be a plastic crockery sets, there could be a melamine crockery sets as well, and there could be other ceramic crockery sets and etc., glass crockery sets. So this could be comparables. This could the companies engaged in that particular selling of crockery sets, I can select that companies as comparable to the operations of my company, right? And if that companies are into manufacturing of that particular crockery sets, while my tested party is into the trading of that crockery sets, then I won't take that particular company as comparable, because the characterization are both different in both the scenarios, right? But if that companies are also engaged in distribution of that crockery sets, and vis-a-vis my company tested party is also engaged in distribution of melamine crockery sets, then I can take those companies as comparable companies. This could be, there could be n number of cases revolving around such things, but these are the two fundamental things that you should check, that the product should not that way very vague, or it could be similar kind of that particular product, but the comparability needs to be ascertained on the functional basis, right? Now, you need to also check that whether any extraordinary events such as mergers, disinvestments, etc. have happened in that company, comparable company or not, because that would be, you will be able to gauge that data from the financial statement itself, that in case during that particular year the company has undertaken a disinvestment, or have undertaken a merger part, then these are extraordinary events. So you should try to exclude those kind of comparables as well, right, from your final comparable data set. Also, I have not mentioned here, but functional comparability also needs to be assessed on the other functional aspects as well, apart from quantitative and this qualitative aspects which I have discussed here. So for example, there could be government companies also in your comparable data set. Now government companies predominantly, probably they might be having high turnover, or probably due to their nature of formation is such that government will promote that company before, beyond the other companies. So it enjoys that particular branding, or you may say more amount, backup from government. So such companies are also not functionally comparable companies. Then you can also exclude the companies which have an established brand in the market and which are known well in the market, and their brand revenue, so their branding value is much more higher. So such companies cannot be also rejected vis-a-vis, in case if your tested party is just a basic company, or a company which doesn't have that much more brand reach, right? So in such functional aspects are also required to be taken into account when you are judging that particular companies for comparability analysis. I hope this clarifies. Now guys, I have explained here the filters, how we need to use the filters and what are the types of filters which we need to use. In my next video, I am going to discuss on the database which can be used at India level and global level when you are dealing with, when you are commencing your search, then which type of database that you should use, and what are the considerations that you should keep in mind when you are selecting that particular database. I'll discuss that all in next video. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.